Today's session for Opendoor was all about testing conviction and setting the stage for what could be a very eventful next week. The stock came into Friday carrying the momentum from this week's big news, the sudden CEO shakeup, mounting speculation about new strategic moves, and a surge in retail chatter online. And while the trading action showed some resistance at that now familiar $3.50 level, the broader picture remains one of resilience, growing attention, and a lineup of potential catalysts that could easily spark the next big leg up. Opendoor closed the day at $3.17, which represents a 3.4% upward move for the session. We saw an early push toward that $3.50 ceiling, but as has been the case for the last few weeks, it remains a psychological barrier the stock hasn't yet decisively broken. That said, the fact that we've seen repeated testing of that level without a sharp rejection speaks to underlying strength. Buyers are still stepping in, even as some profit-taking naturally occurs after the kind of run we've had in recent days. The CEO transition remains front and center in this story. During the pre-market earlier this week, Opendoor announced that Carrie Wheeler will be stepping down as CEO effective immediately, with Shrisha Radhakrishna stepping in as interim chief executive. Leadership changes like this can often create uncertainty, but in Opendoor's case, the market reaction has been surprisingly constructive. In fact, the stock initially jumped about 10% on the news, which tells me that investors are interpreting this not as a sign of instability, but potentially as a move toward a more aggressive or more innovative strategic phase. And that's where the Anthony Pompliano angle comes in. Pompliano, or Pomp as many know him, has been vocal in his interest in Opendoor lately, and has extended an open invitation to Shrisha for an interview on his platform. As of this recording, we don't have confirmation that the interview will happen. But even the invite itself is adding intrigue to this story. Pompliano has a large and highly engaged audience, especially in the crypto and tech investment communities. If this conversation were to happen, it would instantly put Opendoor in front of a huge new set of retail eyes. And the way Pomp has been positioning this discussion, talking openly about possible intersections between Opendoor's business and the world of Bitcoin, is already stirring speculation. This brings us to another point of buzz, the chatter about a possible partnership or integration with Rome. For those unfamiliar, Rome is a platform that facilitates home purchases with cryptocurrency. While nothing has been confirmed, and this remains pure speculation, the idea of combining Opendoor's tech-driven real estate marketplace with the ability to transact in crypto is undeniably attention-grabbing. It raises interesting strategic questions. Could Opendoor find a way to blend the stability and long-term value of traditional real estate with the growth and innovation potential of blockchain technology? Done right, this could differentiate the company in a way that appeals to both younger, crypto-savvy buyers and more traditional homeowners looking for speed and convenience. Of course, there's a fine balance to strike here. Opendoor likely doesn't want to be perceived as a purely speculative crypto play that could invite volatility and turn off more conservative investors, including some institutions. But there's also no denying that incorporating some form of crypto functionality, even as an optional layer in transactions, could broaden the brand's reach and bring in a wave of attention. This is where leadership's vision will be critical, finding that balance between innovation and stability, between appealing to new markets and maintaining credibility in the core real estate business. And make no mistake, the core business is operating in a macro environment that's starting to look more favorable. The conversation around interest rates has shifted significantly over the past month, with September now emerging as a likely window for the Federal Reserve to begin cutting rates. For a company like Opendoor, which thrives on housing market activity and transaction volume, lower rates can act like fuel on a fire. Cheaper borrowing costs could bring more buyers into the market, help sellers achieve better prices, and overall drive more activity through Opendoor's platform. It's the kind of macro tailwind that, combined with the company's tech-driven model, could significantly improve operational results. Then there's the retail dynamic. Over the past week, Opendoor has become one of the more talked-about tickers in certain corners of social media. Eric Jackson has been especially vocal, and has made a bold call, saying publicly that he sees the potential for this stock to reach $10. That's a lofty target from where we are today, but it's not just the price point that's important here, it's the confidence and conviction being expressed by high-profile investors. That can be contagious, and in a market where sentiment often drives near-term price action, these kind of endorsements can help keep the momentum going. We also can't ignore the role of short interest here. Opendoor remains heavily shorted, and when you combine that with a steady climb in share price and strong retail buying, you create the conditions for a potential short squeeze. If we do get a clean break above $3.50, that could force some shorts to start covering, which in turn could add buying pressure and push us quickly toward the $5 range, and if the news flow remains favorable, possibly higher. So heading into next week, here's how I see it. In the near term, the $3.50 level remains the battleground. A strong break above it with volume could be the signal for the next leg higher, and I wouldn't be surprised to see $5 come into play fairly quickly if that happens. Beyond that, if the CEO interview materializes and delivers either a concrete vision for growth or a well-messaged balance between crypto innovation and real estate fundamentals, it could extend the rally. And if we layer in macro tailwinds from rate cut expectations, plus the underlying squeeze potential from high short interest, we have a convergence of factors that could make the next few weeks extremely interesting for this stock. Longer term, I think the more important question is how Opendoor defines its identity in this next phase. The leadership change suggests an openness to recalibrate strategy. The crypto conversation, whether it comes through Rome, Bitcoin integration, or some other avenue, could be a differentiator, but it has to be executed carefully. If they can use crypto as a tool to enhance transactions without becoming dependent on it for narrative hype, they could potentially appeal to a broader spectrum of customers and investors than ever before. For now, though, the immediate focus is Friday's close and the setup for Monday. The stock has shown it can hold ground in the low $3 range even with profit taking, and every test of that $3.50 mark seems to get just a little bit firmer. That's the level to watch, and if we break it, the combination of retail enthusiasm, macro improvement, and strategic intrigue could make next week one for the books. As we wrap up Friday's trade, Opendoor isn't just another stock with a volatile week, it's a story in motion, with multiple threads converging. Leadership change, potential strategic pivots, bold investor targets, and a macro environment that could turn favorable all point to a company standing at the edge of a defining chapter, and the next move could be big.